Two people commit the same crime. One goes to prison in the United States. The other goes to prison in the United Kingdom. Same mistake. Same charge. But their prison experience couldn't be more different. In the United States, prison is built around punishment first. High fences. Multiple locked doors. Strict movement schedules. Inmates are identified by numbers before names. The environment is loud, tense, and highly structured. Every action is regulated. Count times. Movement times. Recreation times. Many US inmates describe prison as a place where you must constantly prove strength, even when you don't want to. One former US inmate said, "You don't relax in prison. You survive it." The system emphasizes discipline, deterrence, and control. Rehabilitation exists, but often comes second. In the United Kingdom, prisons operate under a different philosophy. Still secure, still restricted, but more focused on management and rehabilitation. Cells are smaller, but inmates often spend more time out of them during the day. Education programs, job training, and counseling are more integrated into daily routines. One former UK inmate explained, "You're still locked up, but they expect you to come back out someday." Violence levels tend to be lower, and prison officers often interact more directly with inmates rather than only through authority. In US prisons, fear plays a major role. Fear of conflict, fear of punishment, fear of being perceived as weak. In UK prisons, the pressure is different. The system relies more on compliance than intimidation. Rules are enforced, but relationships between staff and inmates are often less confrontational. Neither system is easy, but the psychological experience is very different. In the United States, sentences are often longer. Mandatory minimums. 3-strike laws. Limited parole options. Inmates often serve decades. In the UK, sentences are generally shorter, with structured release plans and supervision after prison. One comparison inmates often make: in the US, prison feels like the end of life. In the UK, it feels like life on pause. United States prisons' meals are fast and functional movement is tightly controlled. Personal property is limited. Daily tension is common. United Kingdom prisons. Meals are still basic, but less rushed. More time out of cells. Greater access to education and work programs. Slightly more personal autonomy. Neither is comfortable. Neither is forgiving. But one prioritizes containment, the other correction. US inmates often leave prison with limited support. Stigma. Few reintegration resources. UK inmates are more likely to leave with supervision plans, job training records, re-entry assistance. This difference changes outcomes. Not because people are different, but because systems shape behavior. Both the United States and the United Kingdom say prison is about rehabilitation. But inmates often describe two very different realities. In many US prisons, rehabilitation exists on paper. Programs are limited. Wait lists are long. Funding is inconsistent. One former US inmate said, "You want to change, but the system doesn't slow down for that." Classes get cancelled. Transfers interrupt progress. And survival often comes before self-improvement. In the UK, rehabilitation is built into routine. Education, therapy, and work programs are not optional extras. They're part of the expectation. Not perfect. Not always effective. But present. In US prisons, distance is intentional. Officers maintain authority through separation. Interaction is brief. Commands are clear. Personal conversations are rare. This creates control, but also tension. One former inmate explained, "You never forget who has the power." In the UK, officers are more visible and conversational. They still enforce rules. They still maintain authority. But interaction is more human. One UK inmate said, "They talk to you like someone who'd be leaving one day." That difference changes behavior on both sides. US prisons are often built to intimidate. High fences. Watchtowers. Wide open yards. Heavy doors. The design reminds inmates where they are, constantly. UK prisons feel more contained. Older buildings. Smaller yards. More internal movement. Less visual dominance. More supervision. Both restrict freedom. But one emphasizes power. The other emphasizes containment. Time feels heavier in US prisons. Long sentences stretch years into lifetimes. Hope becomes distant. The future feels abstract. One inmate said, "You stop thinking in years. You think in survival. In the UK, shorter sentences change how time is felt. Release is closer. Milestones exist. Progress feels possible. Time still drags, but it doesn't disappear. In US prisons, identity often hardens. Labels stick. Reputation matters. Adaptation becomes armor. In the UK, identity is still shaped, but less fixed. Inmates are encouraged to see themselves as temporary residents, not permanent prisoners. That difference matters after release, because identity doesn't reset overnight. The biggest difference appears after prison. In the United States, release can feel sudden. One day you're inside. The next, you're alone. Housing is uncertain. Employment is difficult. Support is limited. In the UK, release is more gradual. Supervision continues. Support systems follow. Re-entry is planned. Not guaranteed success, but guided. In the US, prison is often seen as deserved punishment. Sympathy is rare. Second chances are conditional. In the UK, prison is more commonly viewed as correction. Accountability matters, but so does reintegration. Public mindset shapes policy, and policy shapes lives. That depends on the goal. If the goal is punishment, the US system delivers. If the goal is reducing repeat crime, the UK model often performs better. Not because inmates are different, but because expectations are different. When people are treated as future citizens, they behave like it. Some inmates don't just compare systems from the outside. They've lived in United States prisons and later experienced United Kingdom prisons. Their reactions are often the same. Shock. One former inmate said, "In the US, I learned how to defend myself. In the UK, I learned how to manage myself." The contrast isn't comfort. It's expectation. One system prepares you to endure. The other prepares you to return. In US prisons, discipline is constant. Rules are enforced through punishment. Consequences arrive fast. Authority is unmistakable. Inmates adapt by minimizing attention. In UK prisons, discipline exists, but it's paired with direction. Rules are explained. Progress is tracked. Behavior is shaped over time. One inmate explained, "In the US, you avoid trouble. In the UK, you're expected to improve." That difference changes daily choices. Conflict is unavoidable in prison. In the US, conflict is often suppressed. Infractions lead to isolation. Movement restrictions increase. Tension builds quietly. In the UK, conflict is more likely to be managed. Mediation. Behavior reports. Structured consequences. One former inmate said, "Problems didn't disappear, but they didn't explode as often." Management reduces volatility. Suppression postpones it. Mental health struggles exist everywhere, but how systems respond differs. In many US prisons, mental health care is limited. Appointments are delayed. Staff is overwhelmed. Symptoms are often disciplined instead of treated. In the UK, mental health support is more visible. Still imperfect. Still stretched, but recognized as part of incarceration. One inmate shared, "They noticed when you were slipping." That recognition can change outcomes. Shame operates differently in each system. In US prisons, shame is external. Uniforms, numbers, public counts. It reinforces separation from society. In UK prisons, shame is quieter. The focus shifts toward responsibility. What you did matters, but so does what you'll do next. That framing shapes identity. Movement tells you how trusted you are. In US prisons, movement is restricted, escorted, timed, watched. In UK prisons, movement is still controlled, but often more flexible. Access to work, education blocks, structured freedom. One inmate explained, "Small movement made me feel human again." Dignity doesn't come from comfort. It comes from trust. Statistics matter, but context matters more. US prisons often see higher reoffending rates, not because people don't want to change, but because release comes without preparation. In the UK, reoffending still exists, but structured release reduces shock. Preparation doesn't guarantee success, but it improves odds. When asked what would make prison better, not easier, but better, inmates from both systems give similar answers. Consistency, respect, A reason to improve. One former inmate said, "I didn't need kindness. I needed direction." Structure with purpose. Rules with meaning. Consequences that teach, not just punish. The real difference isn't buildings, or uniforms, or even sentence length. It's philosophy. One system asks, how do we control this person? The other asks, who should this person become? That single question changes everything. Prison will always be a place of loss. Freedom, time, comfort. But whether it also becomes a place of transformation depends on the system behind the walls. Same crime, different approach, and lives that leave prison very differently shaped. When people argue about prison systems, they usually argue about numbers. How long sentences are, how much they cost, how tough they should be. But the people who live inside those walls talk about something else. They talk about what prison turns you into. Because no matter where it's located, prison does more than remove freedom. It reshapes behavior. It rewires instincts. It teaches lessons, intentionally or not. In the United States, prison often teaches survival. How to stay alert. How to avoid trouble. How to harden yourself enough to get through the day. In the United Kingdom, prison more often teaches management. How to follow structure. How to prepare for release. How to exist inside rules without losing yourself entirely. Neither experience is easy. Neither experience is comfortable. And neither experience leaves a person unchanged. But the difference matters. Because when someone eventually walks back into society, they don't leave prison behind. They bring it with them, in how they speak, how they react, how they trust, and how they see the world. A system that teaches fear produces people who stay guarded. A system that teaches responsibility produces people who expect accountability. And this isn't about sympathy. It's about outcomes. Most incarcerated people will return to society one day. They'll become neighbors, co-workers, parents, citizens again. The question isn't whether prison should be punishment. It already is. The real question is what kind of people we want returning home. Do we want people trained to endure pressure, or people prepared to handle freedom? Because freedom isn't just unlocked doors. It's decision-making. It's self-control. It's responsibility without supervision. Many former inmates say the hardest part wasn't prison itself. It was realizing that prison had quietly taught them how to live in a world that no longer existed. The world outside moves faster, speaks softer, punishes differently. And without preparation, that gap becomes overwhelming. This is why comparisons matter. Not to say one country is perfect, not to excuse harm, but to understand cause and effect. Systems shape people, and people shape society. Every rule sends a message. Every interaction reinforces an identity. Every day inside either narrows a person's future or keeps it open, just enough. Prison will always be a place of loss. Loss of time, loss of autonomy, loss of normal life. But it doesn't have to be a place of permanent damage. The difference between punishment and correction isn't softness. It's intention. And when a system believes that people can return better than they entered, it designs itself differently. Because the real impact of prison isn't measured by how controlled people are inside, but by how they behave when no one is watching anymore. That's the part that lasts. That's the part that matters. And that's why how we build prisons ultimately decides what kind of society we all live in. If you want more real prison stories and honest comparisons, subscribe. This is the side of incarceration most people never see.